Welcome to the Fall 2025 Brainstorm virtual event, Who Am I to Stop It? Letting Your Personal Story Shine Through Art, presented by Cheryl Green. Here's Cheryl Green's unique perspective on rethinking recovery, resilience, and inclusion, blending multidisciplinary research with personal narrative to explore identity and stigma. Dr. Jean Langenfelder welcomes us, followed by Cheryl Green, and wrapping up with questions from our viewers.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to our quarterly virtual speaker series, Fall Brainstorm. This series is sponsored by the Kessler Foundation as part of our TBI Model System Grant, which is funded by the National Institute on Disability, Independent Living, and Rehabilitation Research. It's now my pleasure to introduce Cheryl Green. Cheryl is an independent access artist with a focus as a captioner, audio describer, and multimedia digital artist. She's a member of New Day Films and has been on Oregon's State Brain Injury Advisory Council for 5 years. Cheryl brings her lived experience with multiple invisible disabilities and chronic illness to creating media that explores politically and culturally engaged stories from cross-disability communities with creative access at the heart of all her work. Her podcast is Pigeonhole, and her work can be found at whoamiitostopit.com. Today, she will be presenting Who Am I to Stop It? Letting Your Personal Story Shine Through Art. Please welcome Cheryl Green.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation. And I'm going to share my screen. I just have a few slides, and I'm also going to play a video for y'all in a moment. So let me find this. Whoops. Okay, there we go. Who am I to stop it? Letting your personal story shine through art. I just want to start a little bit about me and storytelling. So I became a filmmaker and a podcaster after acquiring disabilities from TBI in 2010. And then I felt like my story got lost until I made a short comedy called Cooking with Brain Injury in 2011. It's not a very long time for your story to be lost, but it feels long enough. And when I say that my story got lost, I mean that people only wanted to ask me how I got hurt, details of the wreck, details about medical treatment and rehab and what was quote unquote wrong with me. And I didn't want to tell everybody how I got hurt. I wanted to talk about what I needed for accommodations. And I felt like when I tried to answer people's questions, it's like only people with training in TBI really understood me, although not all. There are people who I'm close to who insisted that I never told them what was going on with me or what was hard for me, even though I know I did over and over. It's in my journal, it's in my diary. I was trying the best that I could, and it wasn't computing for people. But then they saw me portray myself and my impairments in these short films, and they suddenly got it. They suddenly got me a little more. And people always compliment my acting in Cooking with Brain Injury. I'm like, not acting. I'm playing myself in that film. So in Cooking with Brain Injury, my friend and TBI survivor Bill Alton and I try to cook a piece of salmon, and we fail in every way that we could reasonably show on camera. And it is a comedy. I want to point out that it is not a cooking show. It is not a demo. Every few years, someone will comment on my YouTube and say, this is a terrible demonstration. This is so rude to people with brain injuries. This is not helpful. It's a parody of a cooking show. It's not a demo. And it is based on a lot of real things that Bill and I have struggled with, like cooking, anger management, communication. We made a sequel called Friending with Brain Injury, which I think we made just a year later. And that one shows two things. One is that even people with other disabilities can be prejudiced and ill-informed about people with brain injury and how to accommodate and be inclusive. Nobody's immune to misunderstanding. And second, loneliness and difficulty in making friends is real, confusing, and very stressful. Like, don't ask me to tell you how I got hurt. I want to tell you how hard it is that I lost all my friends, that kind of thing. That one stars me and Bill again, and also my real life vision therapist, Jackie, plays a vision therapist in the comedy. And my late friend, artist Kathy Coleman, is the very rude and ableist host. That one is a parody of the dating game, but in our version, Bill and I are competing just for the chance to make a friend. So after those two short comedy films about the chaos of life with TBI, which felt chaotic to me, but people now are starting to understand my internal world through these films, I then co-directed a feature-length documentary with Sal Lopez that came out in 2016 called Who Am I to Stop It? And Sal also filmed and edited those comedy shorts. So that's very exciting. Whoops, I'm working on two computers right now, so sometimes I'm scrolling the wrong mouse and there will be a funny pause. Okay. Alice Wong on storytelling, and I will read everything that's on this slide. This goes back to how people have insisted for years that I tell them my rec story and tell them what's wrong with me. No thanks. I'd rather tell you my access needs so we can have accommodations that make everything better for us. There are a lot of other stories I really like to tell, and I think that's okay. Now, some people are only listening to the presentation, so I'll describe the pictures as I go. There's a picture of Alice and a quotation from her memoir, Year of the Tiger. The picture shows Alice, an Asian American woman with short black hair and bold red lipstick. She's sitting in her power wheelchair, wearing a blue shirt and shiny, puffy black pants. She has a trach tube in her neck that wraps behind her to her ventilator, and she's holding up and pointing to her book, Year of the Tiger, An Activist's Life. The book cover is yellow with a gorgeous drawing of a red tiger looking like a very scary but very good kitty. And there are a few flowers scattered around the cover. And here's the quotation from Alice. Quote, I think of storytelling as a chance to know ourselves better, to really question who we are, where we've been, and who we want to be. What is your story, and how do you want to share it with the world? And most importantly, your stories should please you and you alone. And that's excerpted. The rest of the quote is very powerful and inspiring to me too. So who am I to stop it? This is a documentary film about isolation, art, and transformation after brain injury, because again, I wanted to tell the story that pleases me. Um, the picture here is of the three TBI survivors who are featured in the film, Brandon, Danny, and Chris. Brandon's a white man in his late 20s here in the picture. He's playing acoustic guitar and wearing a t-shirt that says Badass Brain Injury Survivor. Danny's in her early 20s here. She's a Black woman smiling for the camera, wearing her high school graduation cap and gown. And Chris is a white woman in her 50s here, kneeling, holding a small squeeze bottle of black ink. On the ground is a giant scroll of white paper that's got lots of dynamic drips, drops, and lines that she's made with the ink bottle. And this is all from the film. We named it Who Am I to Stop It? After a story. Yay, after a story that Chris told when we went to film her. And it came from this idea of how you might get judged out in the world. You might be told you're not good enough anymore after your brain injury. But you should never be the person who stops yourself from reaching for your dreams, no matter what people are saying about your capacity anymore, or that you've changed, or that you haven't changed for that matter. Who are you? This is a rhetorical question, of course, but who are you to get in the way of your own goals and your own hopes for your life? Because there's plenty of other people who are going to do it. And life with brain injury is hard enough. Let's not make it worse by judging ourselves. This is kind of the story behind the title. And I made this with my co-director, Sal, to feature artists with brain injuries who use their art, not for therapy. It's not art therapy, which I love. But they use their art to reconnect to a sense of themselves and their fullness and to their community. So in this film, there are no wreck images, no mangled cars. There's no pictures of people in the hospital with the tubes, and there's no interviews with doctors. There's not even interviews with family members. There are friends and family in the film who these artists interact with, but we didn't interview them. We wanted the survivors to tell their own stories in their words and through their art. Um, and we didn't ask them in the film, tell me how you got hurt. Brandon and Danny both say how they got injured, but they say it through their art. They did not say it in answer to me interrogating them. And Chris, we just never asked, and you never hear in the film how she got injured. So we're gonna switch gears, and I'm gonna play a little bit of how the three of them share their TBI story with the world. I'm gonna play not three scenes from the documentary, but three parts of three scenes. It's a little disjointed. So to introduce it, this film has audio description. I don't know if everybody here is familiar with audio description. You will have picked it up by now. It's what I'm doing, describing the pictures that are on the screen, to make things more accessible. And because I chopped these scenes out of the full film, you're not going to hear full audio description. It might feel kind of random. The audio description will just come in and out because the scenes are chopped up. So just to introduce it, Danny is going to be at the Oasis Youth Center, which is an LGBTQ plus youth center. And she went there to participate in a rap battle in this scene. Then Brandon is at Imago Dei Church, and then at a program called Refuge. And then Chris is in a downtown art gallery, and then she's standing outside looking at a tall glass sculpture. So altogether, these three snippets are about 7 minutes. The captions are turned on. You don't need the auto captions from Zoom. If those are on, you should use the captions in the film. And again, just a few snippets of audio description. So bear with me while I pretend I can very fluidly switch apps and switch the sharing. Here we go, some scenes from Who Am I to Stop It?
Okay, everybody, welcome to Oasis's first rap battle. This is a rainbow rap battle. Woo! Let's see, who we have first? Well, I'd like to welcome Danny.
I have a beat. No, I don't have a beat, but I just have a poem. Attention goes to Danny. All right. Look, I have traumatic brain injury, and I was in a car accident about 6 years ago, and I almost died. It was this huge thing. I was in a coma for about a few weeks, and then I woke up, had this injury called traumatic brain injury, AKA TBI, and I wrote this poem. It's called Never Ending Trauma by Danny Sanderson. That's me, all right? All right, it goes, why do they make fun of me when I look just like you? What if you ain't got that clue? I've been through trauma too. At young age, I was 16, whoa. Hard car crash, 80 to 100 feet, out back window, out I go. It's about 6 weeks later, and I wake from a coma. Talk about crazy, listen here, and I'll tell you. Just seconds, moments later, I notice I can't walk. Wait, can you hear me? I can barely hear myself talk. Now picture you lying there wondering what just happened to you. Just sitting there thinking what's going on and what did you do? Just a few seconds later, I noticed there's a tube in my tummy, so I pulled and it's stuck. Now I'm thinking, wow, Danny, let's talk about great luck. My mind is now racing, someone help I cry. Thinking to myself, what is this, what happened, and what did I die? Because I thought I was dead, okay? And I'm lying in bed, lost in my head, searching for an answer or even a clue. Why am I in this room and it looks as if baby blue? I'm still crying now, there's people everywhere. Saying this name, Danielle, it can't be me, this ain't no fair. Please someone tell me what has happened to me. Tell me in my life, or is this a dream? Someone please tell me because I'm begging. I'm here, feel me scream or some shit like that. Stuff like that. Even long after, I'm still thinking still. Crying, Danny, stop for the second life I got. Now, as if I wanted or as if I asked, because if I knew my life was going to be like this, I sure would have passed. By Danny. That's me.
Thank you, Danny.
You give me some money. It's all right. That's cool. That's cool. All right. Thank you.
At Imago Dei Community Church, Brandon sits on the stage with the pastor with his guitar on a stand next to him.
Well, welcome to Refuge. If this is your first time, we're glad you're here. And tonight, Brandon Scarth, who's just part of our community, came up to me a couple weeks ago and said, man, I would really love to share my story at Refuge sometime. And I said, I would love that, bro.
I would like to get enough songs together to form a album, kind of a doorway for people who don't have brain injuries to see what does it look like to someone who has a brain injury. My next tune will be a song that doesn't really have a title yet, at least, but I wrote it after my accident, so I hope you guys like it.
So this is Brandon Scarth live. We're gonna have him sing the song.
Hello, hello, hello. Is there anybody out there for me? And what makes me so crazy up in here? I don't know. I don't know. I'm a little crazy, so what? So I may have gotten off on the wrong bus, not to mention the wrong bus stop, but so what? Not to mention the wrong bus stop, but so what? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I do know a man, now I'm not crazy. A man who can take all the pains and drown them like a rat in the muddy Mississippi. Like a rat in the muddy Mississippi. A man who can take all our joys and raise them up through the roof where they ought to be in the first place. I do know. 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 I do know.
Wearing a baseball cap at an art gallery in Portland, Oregon.
To me, you know, if I was in a gallery like one of these down here, that would mean I made it. And I'm like starting to get teary-eyed. I guess it's just, you know, big dream. I don't want it to happen. Even though my symptoms right now, but I can still see something like that.
Points to an outdoor sculpture.
And forget about for a second. It's like, that's cool. And all of a sudden, I just felt sorry for all the people that have brain injuries that aren't artists, because I at least have that to look towards.
Thanks for watching those clips with me. I haven't seen them in years, so it's very moving for me. I'm glad that Chris ends on kind of an inspired note, but you can tell in the film that Sal and I did not shy away from messy stuff and hard stuff and painful stuff. And I just think the way all three of them express their doubts and concerns is so eloquent and beautiful. And yeah, so that was just a small part of how Sal and I shared three other people's stories. And now I have to remember to turn my share screen back on. Back to the slides. I want to share a little bit more, not clips, but just there are so many artists with brain injury. There's so many artists, and there's so many people with brain injuries. And some people, you may not even know you're an artist yet. On this slide, I've got the logo for the Bind Waves podcast, which is a brain injury network podcast that's run by peers with brain injury. There are other brain injury related podcasts out there. Some are hosted by survivors and peers. Some are hosted by people who serve people with brain injury. This is just one that I'm familiar with out of Texas. And just a quick plug, the Bind Waves logo, it's got bind in gray and the I is a person and waves is in orange, and it's kind of surrounded by sound waves. But it's also a screenshot from a website called Pod Access. So here's the plug. It's not just shameless. This is the Pod Access library page, and Pod Access is an online podcast. It's an online hub for deaf and disabled podcasters to find audiences and each other, and for anybody to find podcasts. Thomas Reed and I co-founded Pod Access with the initial support coming from Alice Wong, who I mentioned earlier, Year of the Tiger, and the Disability Visibility Project. And I mention this because if there are any podcasters with disabilities or deaf podcasters checking out this workshop or the recording later, hey, get in touch. You can have your podcast listed on the Pod Access site too. There's a form there's a form that you can fill out that's on the website. The website's podaccess.net. If you are just a podcast lover and you want some new podcasts, go to podaccess.net. We have a whole library of podcasts on a range of topics. The podcasts are not only about disability, most of them are, but we're growing the library all the time. And so Bind Waves, I think, is now I don't remember if the word "the" is in the URL or not. My apologies, but I have here thebraininjurynetwork.org/bindwaves. If that doesn't work, take out the word "the." And then there's a picture of Toni Hickman. She's a Black woman in a peach-colored dress holding up her Emmy statue. She worked on the theme music for either Phoenix Rising or Rising Phoenix. It's a Netflix program about Paralympic athletes or para-athletes, and she was one of the people who worked on the theme music. The theme song is incredible. So she's holding her Emmy from that. Toni Hickman is a young stroke survivor. She's an award-winning hip-hop singer and songwriter, motivational and public speaker, book author, and healer. I would encourage people to check out her work. She's at tonihickman.com, TONI. You can find her music videos and some of her motivational speaking on YouTube. Some of it's casual, like she's sitting in her car just speaking to the camera. It's very raw and intimate. And you can find her books on her website. I'm a huge fan of her music. She has a song called People Pleaser, which is just the best. And it's in Who Am I to Stop It? I loved it so much. I reached out, please, can I license this incredible song? And it meant the world to us to have a brain injury survivor provide some of the music that's in Who Am I to Stop It? So she's great. ToniHickman.com, or go to YouTube and look for her. I think she's the real Toni Hickman on YouTube. So all these artists I'm sharing, but why? Why create stories? Why create art? Why am I so focused on stories and art? It's because a lot of times people with brain injury face stigma and misunderstanding. We get reduced. I have gone to this is not just brain injury, obviously, but that's what I'm talking about today. I have gone to give presentations about disability representation in the media, and the host introduced me as a patient. And this is not an audience of doctors. There's no medical charts. I'm not here as a patient. I'm here as a media maker. I've had people call Brandon, Danny, and Chris patients by people who are not doctors, who just watched the film. and still want to refer to them as patients. There's one scene where Chris goes to the doctor. Otherwise, literally nobody ever looks like or acts like a patient in the film, in my perspective. And even in the doctor's office, she's more than a patient, right? She's Chris. So I have on the slide here, we are many. Sure, all of us are a patient at some time, but people without brain injuries are patients for other causes. So I don't know why the insistence. And thank you, I wasn't introduced as a patient today. I noticed that. And it may seem subtle to you when you introduce me, but I notice when people don't call me a patient, and I love it. Um, uh, you know, our health status is not all that makes us us. So I have these questions on the slide. It's only 5. The list could go on and on. Everybody comes to their own answers. I think it's fun to journal about these questions for yourself. Are you what you do? Are you your job? I'm a media maker. Am I? It's what I do, but is that me? I don't know. Are you what you think? Are you what you look like? Are you how you feel? I just think these are interesting, maybe sometimes scary questions to ask, but I don't ever want people with brain injury to lose this list of questions or to shrink their list of questions. And I don't want non-brain injured people to forget that we have all these questions. So writing or drawing or telling our stories, however we want to, does help us understand ourselves and make sense of our lives. And it helps other people get to know us and understand us. And people have studied the effects of stories. There's some speech therapists, and I'm sure others who have studied the effect on people with brain injury who tell stories and on the people without brain injury who listen. And the people with brain injury said they felt pride sharing something awesome about themselves. For all the times I've been asked to tell my rec story, no one's ever said, "What are you good at? What were you good at before? What are you still good at? What new thing are you good at now?" They just want to hear the rec story. So opening up storytelling is a chance for people to say, yeah, I've got this disability and I'm really great at whatever. We can correct misunderstandings that others have about us. It's the researchers that I looked at, their articles in the journals said the storytelling helped the person with brain injury point out where someone else underestimated them and thought they couldn't do very much. But it also helps people understand where they're overestimating you. I tell people, oh, I need this accommodation. And they literally say, no, you don't. I'm like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure I'm not lying. But you have your prejudice about what a person with a brain injury looks like. I don't look like whatever that is. And so you just don't believe this accommodation need that I'm requesting. Or if I talk really clearly and eloquently, people can't believe that I have trouble with listening. So the storytelling can help correct some of that with some people. And stories really, whether they're told or drawn or whatever, they give a window into your life world. And life world is a really cool concept. It is your experience of your life. And it may be very different from how people categorize your life, but it's yours. Ooh, wrong mouse. So I have some more brain injury films I want to share. Just a few, because I'm very picky. And honestly, I haven't seen any brain injury films in a long time. So everything on here is old. And I only put on here some films I recommend. So I'm sure everybody has heard of 50 First Dates. Mercy. How many brain injury associations give out the handout to families? Your loved one had a brain injury. Here's what to expect. And they give you these gorgeous, gorgeous resources where to find information about impairments and rehab and communication. And then they list 50 first dates. I'm holding my hands up in just like rage disbelief. No. If anybody here is with a brain injury association and you have that on your handout, would you please take it off? That film does not show anything useful about brain injury, etc. I've given whole presentations about all the things that film does wrong. It's gross film. And it shouldn't be on there because it doesn't help you understand brain injury. So don't put it on there. Here's some films you can put on there. Okay, I went off script. I get impassioned when I hear myself say 51st Dates out loud. So I'm going to come back to this list because we are here in the present moment with this list. Um, The Lookout. This is my only fiction film that I can recommend. The Lookout, and I can't recommend it enough. Wow. It's sensitive. You got to be in an emotionally strong place to watch this film. I find it very moving. I watched it the first time like a decade or so ago, and I watched it again the very next day and just cried just as much as I did the first time. And a few months ago, or a year ago, I don't know, I watched it a third time and I loved it just as much. This film holds up over time. I cannot express how much I appreciate Joseph Gordon-Levitt's portrayal. It's well researched. You can read interviews where he talks about how he researched so he would do a good job, but also the writing of his character. The acting and the writing are spectacular. I think the actor playing the blind roommate's a little questionable. I wasn't really on board with that. But for talking about brain injury, this film is very layered and nuanced and very difficult to watch and exceptional. That's it for fiction. You remember the one I said don't watch. Don't watch 51st Dates, and please don't recommend it, really, for anything. In terms of nonfiction, Marwin Call is my favorite brain injury documentary ever. It's one of my top favorite documentaries on any topic. I have a coffee table book from Marwin Call. Also very sensitive. All of these, you really got to come in prepared that you're going to hear very upsetting stories. Marwin Call is tremendously beautiful. Brain injury dialogues made by people with brain injury. Marwin Call was not. Aphasia, the movie, is fantastic. It's fictionalized, but based very much on a true story. Every 21 seconds, if you're taking notes, this is where you need to be careful. There is a film called Every 21 Seconds from 2018, which I have not seen. It's about a TBI survivor. So I'm not saying yes or no to that one. The one I'm recommending is called Every 21 Seconds, or Why I Scream at the Refrigerator, 8 Stories of Brain Injury in 7 Parts. Just remember, scream at the refrigerator. Every 21 seconds, scream at the refrigerator. If you search that, you will find it. Because again, I haven't seen the other one. This one's great, made by people with brain injury. Fierce Grace is shocking and fascinating. And My Beautiful Broken Brain, which is on Netflix, just incredible. That's it. These are the films I recommend if you want a window into life with brain injury, but also, I think this gets left out a lot. These films are not just to educate non-disabled people. If you are a person who's ever experienced brain injury and you want to see something about your life represented on screen, I believe these films, at least for some people, you might see something of yourself in this, and I think that's very important. But also my stuff. Hey, I'll plug my stuff. My blog, I used to blog 2 to 3 times a week, year round for years. Now I literally forget I have a blog. It's not very active, but it is there. Whoamiitostopit.com has the blog. Especially older posts. I share tons of art by people with TBI, stroke, and a whole range of disabilities. And I used to have quite a few guest bloggers come on and come onto the blog and share their art and share their story. There's a lot of juicy stuff in there, especially in prior years. I'm on YouTube at Cheryl Green. Hey, I don't even remember being so lucky as to get such a good handle, but somehow I managed to get my own name as my handle. I have 2 screenshots up here. Pigeonhole, that's my podcast, as was mentioned at the beginning. It's just a blue background, pigeonhole in yellow, and then I have a little 3x3 wooden cubby. Pigeonholes, little holes for pigeons to sit in. So there's a screenshot for that. And my podcast is on Apple. It's on my website. It's on YouTube. For the most part on YouTube, it's not video. It's just that artwork. But I did do an episode about seahorses, and that one has video of seahorses. It's pretty cool. But it's on there. It's got captions. Everything has transcripts. And then the other screenshot, I don't have that many films I've made just about brain injury specifically, but I have a little playlist. Um, it says 7 videos. It's a very little playlist of films that are about brain injury, and all of them have 2 versions. One has the audio description that's already there. You don't have to turn it on or off. And the other version of the same film doesn't have audio description if you don't want that. They all have closed captions. And this image is from a film called TBI in My Longest Ride. It's actually the last film I ever made. And it shows Carl Moritz. He's the star of this documentary. He's in a velodrome, which is one of those steeply angled cement tracks that you race around at 7,000 miles an hour. And he's in his bike gear, his Lycra with his helmet, walking with his track bike, which, if you're not familiar, is a very skinny, lightweight bike with no brakes and no gears. Oh my gosh. So that's a little bit about finding my stuff. And my last slide here just says, let's chat and thank you. I am so happy I got to present this stuff, and I'm going to stop sharing. And I would just love to have whatever conversation y'all would like to have.
Cheryl, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. So we would love to open it up to questions. So there's a few ways that everyone can ask questions. First, you can use the raise your hand feature. And to do that, you want to click on the participants icon at the bottom of your page. When that opens, there's going to be a raise your hand button. And if you click that, I will call on you and you can ask Cheryl your question. Second, if you would rather not ask your question out loud, you can type your question in the chat, and one of us will ask your question to Cheryl. But Cheryl, actually, I kind of had a question to kind of put things off. So I'm wondering, or I imagine that people might be wondering, how can I get started in storytelling, right? And so, obviously you've had a musician, right, who, had this musical talent or could play guitar, could sing. You had an artist. But for someone who may not have those skills or may not have developed those skills or have those interests, how can others get interested in storytelling, or what can they do to begin the process?
That's a neat question. The first thing is notice if you go, I really want to do such and such, but I don't know how, or I can't do it anymore as well. Notice if you're doing that and try to put that off to the side. I notice that when I start to do something, I start off with a whole list of negative self-talk. Well, I don't have time and I'm too tired and I don't think I can. I don't have any ideas today. Woo, that's a creativity killer. So if that's true for you, if you lost skills or you don't have a skill, that's fine if that's honest, but maybe notice when you're doing that and don't let that be the start to when you sit down to try something. Set that aside and focus on what it is you do want to do. So if you've got a smartphone, oh, there's my little raven on my lock screen. If you've got a smartphone and you like to use the voice memo app, just record your story. I recommend hold it about 6 inches away, so maybe the length of my index finger. Don't hold it directly in front of your mouth, because when you say the letter P in any word, it's going to go make a big puff, and you're going to hate the sound of it. So maybe put it a little lower than your mouth and maybe tilt it, and then you'll know you're getting a great sound and you'll want to listen back to it. You can record your voice memo and you can listen to it maybe later and write it out or type it out. I find sometimes I can't think of a story when I open up Microsoft Word. I want to write something down, but if I go to a Google Doc, it looks slightly different. All of a sudden I have an idea. What? I don't know why. So if you want to do something and the idea isn't coming, look at something different. Put on some music that will inspire you. Sometimes I do image searches online for things that I just find pretty, like silver lame fabric, which has nothing to do with anything, but I'll just stare at pictures of silver lame fabric and I feel relaxed and shiny and excited, and then I can think of a story to write. I do a lot of journaling. I write 3 pages every morning, not before coffee. I drink the coffee while I do it. Some people recommend you do it first thing. I don't understand those people. But is there some way that you can dedicate every single day or 3 times a week, something realistic? I am going to draw one picture. Don't care what it looks like. I'm going to draw something. Or can you find a time in the day where maybe you read something online or you hear somebody say something that catches your attention? Just go write a story about that. You don't have to start with, today I'm going to write my memoir. Write down what's on your mind that day, or call a friend and tell them. If you do a Zoom call and you record it and you have the auto transcription on or the captions, you can download, admittedly very bad quality, but you can download a transcription of your story that you told over Zoom. You get on a Zoom call by yourself and record it and download the transcript, and then you can clean it up yourself. And then I guess my last suggestion is tell your ideas to other people. I just read an article today about how easy it is to be pessimistic and assume people like you less than you, or like you assume people don't like you or they don't like what you said, but research shows that more often people really did like you or liked what you said more than you thought. You walk away, oh, why did I say that? It's genuinely not landing with other people as badly as you think it is or as often. The research shows this. I was so delighted to read this. If you have, run your ideas past people. People love being a sounding board. Hey, can I tell you my creative idea? Will you tell me if this sounds like an interesting story I should write? People are going to want to hear that. People love being helpful and being a sounding board. So share your creative ideas with other people and see if maybe someone else has a skill set they can teach you about how you might like to express yourself. I want to zip it now.
Those are all great ideas. Thank you. Yes. Let's see. Does anyone else have a question or anything they would like to ask Cheryl? We do have a comment in the chat. I'll read that. This was a beautiful presentation. Art, especially music, has been such an important form of expression and coping mechanism in my life. I will always be an advocate for engaging with the arts. I see we have a hand raised. Angela, would you like to ask your question?
Actually, it's not a question. First, I want to thank Cheryl. Full disclaimer, I work here at the foundation, and I really, really enjoyed your presentation. One of the things I wanted to kind of suggest with the steps that you can take is something that I learned in a grief class, and it was just to cut, like out of magazines, kind of like what you do when you were a kid, right? Phrases, words, things like that, right? And just paste them onto a piece of paper. You know, pictures, words, whatever they might be. You don't have, I have no artistic ability whatsoever, but I learned a little bit about what was important to me by doing that. And then it kind of just took off from there in terms of learning how to deal with my grief and loss, which is different than a traumatic brain injury, but grief and loss totally overlaps with stories. And so that's a suggestion for people who don't think they have any artistic ability to sit down and paint something or draw something on their own.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That is brilliant. And grief and loss is a common theme with brain injury, but regardless, yet to tell your own story, you don't need to use your own words or your own drawings. You can cut out the words and drawings or pictures of other people and paste them out in the order you want to. I love that suggestion so much. What a great way to get past like a block or to just get started. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl.
Coco, I see you have your hand raised. If you'd like to unmute, you can ask Cheryl your question.
Hi, Cheryl. Thanks so much for coming and presenting today. I know you talked a little bit about, kind of like carving out time. I find routine is like super, super, super hard for me, and organization, like those two things kind of go together. And I don't know if you have any specific tips you use or have come across.
No, I feel that. I don't know if I have tips, but I'll tell you the one single thing in the world that I have finally found works for me, and that is accountability buddies. So this thing where I write 3 pages every morning, I never would have come up with that. And even if I had, I'm telling you, I wouldn't do it. No way. But it's from this book called The Artist's Way, which is like 30 or 40 years old. I still haven't read the book. I'm looking at it. It's right there on the counter yelling at me. But a friend of mine told me about this practice, the morning pages, which is part of the book's program. And I mean, talk about commitment. I've had this book for 6 months. I refuse to open it and read it. But this friend who told me about it emails me every Sunday morning. How's morning pages going? He's constantly checking on me, and I don't want to let him down. And so, whether you call it pressure or whatever it is, I am doing this for myself, but I'm doing it to make sure Rick is checking to make sure I have integrity. And so I'm going to do it. Same thing with there are other parts of my life and other creative projects where I ask somebody to check on me. Will you check and make sure I started this? So that's the only, I don't think that's what an OT or a speech therapist would recommend as like a practical tip. But the external factor helps me. And the fact that the morning pages practice was someone else's idea from the book, I can't remember her name because I haven't read it. The Artist's Way. Someone else came up with it. She swears it works. I'm just going to go ahead and try it. And then I don't give myself a hard time if I'm not going to do it. I've skipped a couple days and I'll go in there and I'll put the date and say, I'm not doing this today. And then I close it. And then I did it. I did do it. I have nothing to be disappointed in myself about. So there's the emotional factors like of will I be disappointed in myself? But yeah, I rely on other people a lot.
Okay. Well, that's I in my world I call that a hand holder, and a lot of things I appreciate holding hands with someone when I do it or when I'm practicing it enough to do it on my own. So yeah, so that fits.
Okay,
And
good.
yeah, I feel like just this is for everybody. Just a comment that every day we're creating our own lives. And I don't think people understand, you know, all the ways you can be an artist. And so I just want to remind people that it might be being creative about what to make out of six things in the fridge, or it might be creative about how to make the schedule work on a busy day. But I do feel like everybody deserves credit for being an artist.
Thank you, Coco. I see Aretha also has her hand raised. Aretha, would you like to unmute and ask Cheryl your question or comment?
Yes, thank you. Cheryl, thank you so much for presenting today. My question is about how do you get past the negative talk, the negative self-talk to really do what it is that your purpose after a TBI?
Ooh, well, I thank you for that question. I can say what generally is most of the time working for me has taken about 6 years, and that is the Headspace meditation app. It's paid. There are free apps out there, mindfulness meditation. I know that is not everybody's thing, so I don't give it as a blanket recommendation. But that is the thing that worked for me because they don't call theirs like Buddhist meditation or Zen or anything. They call it neuroscience backed. And it is based in brain training, mind training, which reminds me of when I was in rehab,
Yeah.
cognitive, whatever you call it, cognitive rehab, is that what it's called? And in the Headspace app, and I'm not getting a free subscription from them for endorsing them, but in the app, when you do the guided meditations, when I do the guided meditations, they say, notice when your mind has wandered, and that's okay. Can you bring it back to focusing on the breath? And then he'll be quiet for a few minutes and then he'll come back on. Your mind might have wandered again. That's okay. And so for me, I've learned from this practice that a wandering mind, a distracted mind, icky, mean, gross, horrible thoughts that come to me, okay, I had that thought. I'm not a bad person for having that thought. I'm not making a mistake. I don't need to be fixed. Everybody has nasty thoughts sometimes. And learning to notice, I've used this app and it took years before it started showing any real effect. And it's still not, it doesn't work all the time. But saying to myself, oh, I notice I'm getting super enraged right now. Look at that. And just observing and noticing and naming things. Oh, listen to me telling myself something terrible. There I go again. I think I would rather look at a picture of a cat. And so refocusing, but always naming them completely free of judgment. Because if I have a thought about how terrible I am and then I judge myself for that thought, well, now I've just doubled down, doubled up. I'm just making everything worse. And so gentleness, non-judgmentalness, and noticing and naming things. Look at that terrible thought I just had. I'd like to think about something different now. And again, and I don't do the practice every day because I'm fussy and I don't want to. But after how long have I been doing it? 8 years, it's starting to have a good effect, and I can step back and notice my anger, notice my emotions, notice my hateful speech toward myself in my mind. Um, and then I guess the last thing, this goes back to that hand holding. I might sometimes reach out when I'm having a ton of negative self-talk. I'll reach out to a friend and say something nice to them, like, I love you. I'm thinking about you. And I just saw I just looked at a picture of you and it reminded me how much I love you. And they will tend to write back with something very loving too. And then I get that established. And then I'll ask for a phone call and I'll tell them I'm a terrible person and I hate myself. And then they'll talk me down. But beginning with an expression of honest, sincere love and compassion toward other people and getting my mindset on love and compassion, kindness, cuteness, whatever, helps me get out of the loop of the negative self-talk.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you for asking, because I don't think it's an easy question to ask. It's not easy to live with negative self-talk. It's brutal, but it's just thoughts and you're allowed to have other thoughts.
Kate wanted to make a comment. So Kate, if you want to unmute and talk to Cheryl.
Hi, you'd think I paid for Zoom, I'd be able to get my hand raised. I'm a STBI survivor, 16 years, February. I only learned it was STBI recently. Anyway, all I want to say is to support Cheryl's call out to put the story in the world. You don't have to have been bankrupt to know what it is to deal with money. You don't have to have been left at the altar to know what a possibly toxic, possibly dangerous, really out of soap opera, but not in a good way, romantic relationship is. You don't have to have been, kicked out your house by your parents to know what it is to struggle with family relationships. Whether you call it empathy or you call it similarity, what you are experiencing just in your discharge from the hospital, in your neuropsych, if you had it, in your occupational therapy, as you attempt, and speaking about me, attempt to reconnect to people socially, find new friends, make new friends, ideate who you are now. The world needs to hear it. And I don't say this only because I wrote a book detailing what I learned and all the, I won't cuss on this, mess ups in that life. I felt I needed to do it, not because I'm trying to be on, I was gonna say Wendy Williams, on any kind of talk circuit or anything other than if in the darkest of what I was going through, and it comes up still, there had been someone that had a notion of the challenges, the, comparing myself to myself, which is the worst kind of comparison versus, a colleague or a friend or someone I went to high school with. The world needs it because as much as the coaching industry is an industry killer, and we are saturated with emails from people that can help you and they want to help you. And I won't name names here because I don't want to be unkind and gross. That exists. That's about making money. That's about fame. That's about entertainment. That's not about genuine impact, to be there for each other, to be there with each other. And so Cheryl stands up as not only as a guide, but as someone to emulate, because it takes courage. It's easy to talk about, because everyone has a thing that they screwed up, whether they got caught cheating in school when they were little, not everybody, or they had a work issue where they got, summoned to, whatever, like, don't come to this party or something like that. But in life, when things go backwards, when they stop, when they require you to learn how to drive again, to learn how to scramble eggs again, to learn how to form words again, you may not think that someone else can absolutely identify with that. They may not be able to identify with the action, but the feeling they can. And so you do the world a service by putting your story out there, whether it's podcast, whether it's video, whether it's writing something, whether it's going on Substack, whether it's making sure that your local media knows who you are and you have something to say. I didn't mean to go on so long. Thanks so much. Cheryl, remarkable stuff. So much gratitude. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I wouldn't say you went on too long. I was ready to ask for an extension on this session. Yes, you're sharing your just +1 to everything that Kate just said here. And speaking of news, like, is there a local community radio station or community TV channel where you live? People are always looking for fascinating people to interview, and everybody's fascinating. But you can go to the website of the community TV or community radio and see if there is a program that is on a topic that you are an expert in or you're interested in, whether it's brain injury or not. And I'll tell you, if you went on a program about gardening because you're a great gardener, everybody is going to benefit from hearing about how people with brain injury learn to garden, because the accessibility that you put into it, the way you pace yourself, the accommodations, that is good information for all sorts of people. So you can look for a disability themed show, you find somebody's blog to be a guest on, or any other topic. When you bring your personal experience and your twist on it, that is so good. And like Kate was saying, you don't know who you're going to touch, who's out there thinking, nobody gets me, nobody gets me. Then they read your blog post, oh, somebody gets me. Can't underestimate the power of that. It's fantastic. I want you to do the next month's workshop.
So
You're
we have
funny.
to unfortunately.
I participated in the Kessler knows me because I participate in studies because I live in New York City. Yeah, you're funny. You're I appreciate you saying it. All right, happy holidays and thanks so much.
So as we're going to wrap up, I just want to draw everyone's attention to a few things in the chat. There was one post just about asking if there's any members that happen to be on that are in New York. And then if anyone wants to exchange information and meet up and about feeling super isolated. So if anyone is in the New York area and would be interested, you could send the information to us and would be happy to connect you. Also, there was another post just about suggesting loveyourbrain.com has their free mindset program for survivors of TBI. So being able to utilize that resource for free, absolutely. So, but I would love to thank Cheryl for being here today and Cheryl for your presentation today. And I want to thank all of you for attending. So a recording of today's presentation is going to be available on Kessler's Foundation's SoundCloud and YouTube channel in the near future. Also, immediately after this presentation, we're going to have a survey about today's presentation. So, and if you don't have time to answer it right after this presentation, that's fine. We'll follow up with an email. But just so we can get some feedback and know how to, so Cheryl can get some feedback and we could know how to structure some of our presentations going forward. And if you're interested in any of our events or participating in our research, a lot of which can be done virtually, please check us out at the Kessler Foundation website. But again, I want to thank you all for joining us today. Cheryl, I especially want to thank you for, a wonderful presentation. And I think you've given us all great things to think about and things to leave here with in terms of, how we can all move forward in our lives. And that's been just wonderful. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for having me. And thanks for the conversation, everybody. It was amazing.
Missed our past events? To view them, scan the QR code or go to bit.ly/kf-tbi-research. Interested in participating in our research remotely or in person? Scan the QR code or go to kesslerfoundation.org/join.